there'll be final judgment. I think that both Parmenides and Pythagoras are an extrapolation from Eastern thought that has gradually moved towards the Mediterranean. This emphasis on the soul, this emphasis on mind, this idea that the world of the senses is not real is, I think, the most highly developed form of articulate mysticism. You will find that not just Parmenides, but all the saints in all religions, in Buddhism and in Hinduism and in Christianity, all the great mystics think that the external world, the world of appearance, is the veil of Maya. It's fundamentally not real, that the soul is the only reality. Well, Parmenides wants to take that and put it into a kind of logical form. It's skeptical, but I think also it's ultimately mystical, because where I said that Heraclitus tends to be a centrifugal force, in other words, it dissipates everything, it splits everything up and atomizes, Parmenides represents the opposite logical and epistemological tendency. It's a centripetal force. It brings everything in, gathers in all sense perceptions, all words, all experiences, all things into one. So instead of having an infinite plurality, we have a simple unity, the one. Parmenides believes that the only thing that exists, the only thing that is real, is the one. That's what makes him the opposite of Heraclitus. Instead of infinite plurality, we have infinite unity. Instead of having the world of the senses be reliable, we have the world of the senses being utterly unreal. They are two different stances towards the same kind of problem. Now, the difficulty with Heraclitus is what we find when we extrapolate that into Protagoras. When we get this centrifugal force, everything gets atomized, we find it impossible to talk to each other because we're all talking our own language, and there are as many languages as there are people, and it's because people change over time. At each individual instant, you have a new language, a new set of thoughts, a new set of perceptions and experiences. This utterly atomizes the whole realm of discourse and the whole realm of thought. In other words, it destroys the logos, allows us only to talk to ourselves. We make noise, but it only means blah, 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 blah. It's gibberish. All right? Well, Parmenides understands that problem, says that the world of the senses is unintelligible, and this pluralism ultimately destroys speech. The problem, what we're going to find, is that Parmenides ends up destroying speech too. If you know the thing that the physicists talk about, the black hole, which sucks in all matter and light and everything? Well, the logical analog of the physical thing, the black hole, is Parmenides 1. It is a logical rather than a physical entity which has such a strong logical attractive force that it sucks everything into it and undoes all our distinctions. In other words, the whole realm of the senses is illusory, and whatever other realm there is one unified simple thing. So the one is the only thing which is. That leaves us with a very limited number of things we can say about it. Being is. That's it. But you wouldn't want to distinguish between being and the is. Right? So you're going to collapse those down. And then you wouldn't want to distinguish between, say, the articulation and the thing. So then we just have... You can see why I think this is derived from Indian mysticism. If you know the idea of just saying that the sacred syllable, the ooom, which includes all of language and refers to all things simultaneously, I think that this is one possible last digression as we move asymptotically towards the ooom. Right? We could sit around and gaze at our navels and chant and say the one universal syllable that says everything there is to say because there's nothing to say because all these world of the senses is entirely illusory. Or we can go with Parmenides' logos. He writes a wonderful poem, if you ever get a chance to read the Presocratics. He says, "We must think and say that being is. From the other way I debar you. The idea that non-being is doesn't make any sense. How can non-being be? If non-being isn't, then contradictions are real and blah, blah, blah. We don't want language to turn into blah, blah. We want us to be able to talk, and there's only one thing you can say, so we all better say it. Being is." Now, the idea that being is, of course, collapses down into just being. There's no need to break things into nouns and verbs. Just being by itself would be fine. But why represent it at all? Why not just... Right? You can see how this is collapsing down into the ultimate logical black hole. So we get an infinite plurality, which destroys speech, and then we get an infinite unity, which also destroys speech. So now we're beginning to get a sense of what Socrates and Plato's project is.